Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And I'm your host, Badbaby. And tonight we have with us Robert Evans, I hope. I don't know what's going on. I'm having a hard time contacting Robert. So I am going to start the show, and my co-host, Robert Pepino, is going to go over some current news with you while I try to contact Robert again. All righty then. Okay, everybody, I'm really glad to be back out here tonight, and I got a couple of announcements before I'm going to jump off of here and let Robert take over, because I don't know what's going on with Robert Evans. He has not called in. I'm going to call him again and see, hope to God that nothing's wrong, because he is in California, and remember, folks, they are having them terrible fires out there. So I hate to think that something might be bad happening, so let's just keep him in our thoughts until I can find out what's going on. Also, the other thing I want to announce is everybody might be wondering why Steve Olson is not posting right now. Please keep Steve in our prayers. I hate to have to report that he had a family emergency. He had to go back home. His son has a drug problem, and he overdosed, and he is on life support right now, and it does not look good. I heard that they're possibly trying to decide whether to pull the plug or not, so Steve really needs our prayers right now, so let's keep him in our prayers. And Robert, how are you tonight?
Well, I just had a bad day, but I'm better now. I'm so sorry to hear about Steve's son. That is a horrible thing. No parent should have to face anything like that. I know it's kind of strange, but it seems like, that old adage that, there's one in every family. I mean, I had to go through the same thing, unfortunately, with my nephew, and he passed away. He was only 25 years old. And he and I'm just going to tell the truth here, he got addicted to heroin, and then he got clean for a long time, and, he came out here to Arizona. Basically, at one point, he had nowhere else to go. And we got his life back on track. It was a sobering experience for himself and for all of us, really. And the time that he spent out here was a couple of months. And he had issues back east where he was living. And he'd already started, his mindset started to change, his life started to change, and at that time I had a very thriving business, and he was making the effort. We had the whole plan and action in order, and when he went and turned himself back in, I don't know how, I don't know why or how it happened, because drugs are probably more readily available in prison than they are on the streets these days. And somehow he gave himself a hot shot, and my nephew passed away. That was 7 years ago. So I really do pray for Steve's son. I hope he comes out of it. It's such a horrible thing. No parent should have to lose a child. It's devastating. It's devastating.
Well, I knew something had to be really wrong. I had a show scheduled with Steve on Deep State Blues, and he wasn't responding to my emails. He wasn't answering my phone calls, and I was thinking, my God, he never does this. What the heck's going on? So I ended up getting a hold of Jim Rivas, his partner, and he told me, he said, this is what's going on. He goes, keep it under the QT until Steve decides he wants to let everybody know. But Steve did send out an email yesterday announcing that what had happened to his son, and that's why he's not out there. But, a lot of people aren't on his email list. They just follow him on the
Sure.
YouTube. So
Yeah.
I just, those that are out here and are wondering, this is what's going on. So what I'm going to do, sweetie, is I know you've got a couple of news stories of what's going on. While you cover that, I'm going to hop out of here and try to give Robert a quick call again.
You got it, honey. And yeah, there's so much information to cover. Not only news events, I want to talk about what I personally witnessed myself, which you and I were both on Michael's show, and yeah, that was sobering when that happened. But I'll get to that in a few minutes. But I want to, it's kind of like a preparatory thing, to prepare people because of all the things that are happening right now. Starting with this event, by the way. And I posted the videos in the chat for everybody, so you can just go in the chat and download the YouTube videos. And just so you know, I get this information from SOTT, S-O-T-T, which is Signs of the Time. They're a great website. They report accurately and truly. There's no nonsense. They don't play any games. What's happening around the world, they're reporting. This is one of the websites that I share my information from. So I want to go ahead and just kind of go back here just for a second and go to the very first article here. And here we go again, gang. Weird horn noise heard coming from the sky. Now, all of you listening to this network and all the other networks out there who are following this very closely all know that this has been going on now for the better part of what? 7 years, more or less? Well, let's call it 5 years, since 2012. That's when really all the noise sounds really started to come into play. The whole 2012 thing, right? Everybody says, that was a big hoax. No, that was the beginning of events to come forward. So here we are. And this was posted from Haley Freeman on YouTube on Saturday, November 11th, 2017. And I really want you to go and listen to this because I listened to it, and it sounds exactly like all the other strange trumpet noises, bizarre, screeching sounds, metallic sounds that have been heard all over the world. And just in a quick phrase here, it says it lasted for like 2 hours, and originally I thought it was a plane, but then at 11:11 a.m. it stopped with no fades, just went completely silent. And that's the way it usually works with these strange, bizarre trumpet, screeching, just noises, however you guys want to describe it. I'm sure, we have listeners all over the world. There have to be some listeners out there who have heard these same exact things, and this has been worldwide, and this was just one more. So I did post that in the chat. I encourage you to go to the chat and open that video and watch it, because you're going to say, yep, this is the same exact thing that's been going on worldwide. Now, moving forward here, I want to go to the next one. This is a little closer to home here, gang. Strange trumpeting noises heard in Alabama. That is part of our heartland, gang. And this happened on Friday, November 10th, 2017. And the phrase basically goes like this. It was in November 9th, 2017, something bigger, chiming, and we still, very bad English here, they wrote this, chiming, and we don't know. Some strange noise from the sky. Really great experience for anyone hearing it. I guess it would be for anyone listening to it. And I watched this one as well, same thing. This is being heard more and more. It kind of, in a sense, either slacked off between 2013 and 2015, but, or people just weren't reporting it. But it has been consistent worldwide. So the trumpeting, chiming, screeching, thundering noises that everybody has heard continues forward. Now, I also posted this as well. which is the atmospheric the atmospheric compression snow event in Alaska and earliest ever snow in Texas. Now, gang, I want to be really clear about this, what they're talking about here, because Texas has not seen snow, real snow, heavy snowfall, since 1946. Okay, they'll talk about it was 13 years ago. No, that was just a light brush. It disappeared immediately. And remember, I live here in Phoenix, Arizona. We actually had that happen, I want to say about 20 years ago. It was just a light brush, and it kind of really just evaporated off the ground. So let me read to you what has been written. And this was posted on the 8th, which is today, of 2017. So it says, what can only be described as an atmospheric compression snow event has just occurred in Alaska. Now, because they kind of amalgamated the two stories together, it says the most snow fell ever recorded in 90 minutes. Again, that should be really shocking to most people.
How much snow, honey? I missed that.
It said it fell. The most snowfall, or the most snow fell ever recorded in 90 minutes. Should be snowfall. It's just a misprint. Snowfall ever recorded in 90 minutes.
Wow.
Even in the snowiest city in the U.S.
So whereabouts in Texas? I saw that on Facebook, but was it like all over the state?
Yeah, Corpus Christi, Houston, Austin, basically all of Texas.
Wow, Corpus Christi, that's southern Texas.
Exactly, and even into Mexico as well. But going forward, it says even in the snowiest city in the U.S., they termed this event as extreme. Okay, those are powerful words. They termed this event as extreme. Supercooled ice bows, and they had this as well. Supercooled ice bows in Finland, atmospheric compression event in Australia, with record floods in Victoria. Earliest snow on record in Texas that knocked out power. Get this, gang, to 88,000 homes. Will record cold with record cold in Mexico. So, and I'm pretty sure I posted this. If I didn't, you know what I'm going to do? I'll go ahead and repost
put that link up in the chat, would you please?
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now.
Let me explain what's going on.
I think I missed that.
Coming in. I have to apologize, folks, tonight. We were supposed to have Robert Evans with us. I do not know what's going on. I should have tried to contact him earlier. I did talk to him yesterday. He knew. Again, Robert is in California, so
right.
Those terrible fires are going on out there. Let's just keep him in our prayers that nothing's wrong. Hopefully, I left him a couple messages. I just tried calling him again. It rings, goes right to his voicemail. That is not like Robert. Usually he answers right away. So I'm a little bit concerned. We also know that he was supposed to have open heart surgery. He hasn't had that yet, so let's hope to God that isn't what's wrong. I mean, I'm starting to worry what's happened to him.
Well, and a lot of things are happening all over the country, And this was to be expected. Next story on the line here, and I'm going to just drop this in the chat right now. Paste post in. And this is a follow-up, basically, to the last article. Record snow covers Houston and Texas, and that's what I was saying earlier. And this is also today. Say it ain't snow. It's not a dream or nightmare, but reality. One of the biggest snowfalls in history just walloped the Texas Gulf Coast and has brought Houston to a crawl. Now, what did Houston just go through? Did we all forget? What was it, 2-3 months ago?
Yeah,
Hurricane Harvey.
Drinking water, Robert. Did you know that?
Say that again?
Houston are still without drinking water.
Well, now they have some snow. Hopefully they can melt it and use that as drinking water because this is a horrendous situation.
I don't know
it's
if
just
I
getting
want to drink
worse.
snow water with the chemtrails, would you?
Well, if they're not chemtrailing that day and the snow falls, you know what? And then you can always purify it as well, right? You can take it, boil it, add a couple of drops of bleach, and that will at least help, detoxify the water to some degree. But the article goes on here.
Tonight here. Let's let everybody know what we're doing. We're willy-nilly in it, you guys.
We are kind of willy-nilly.
Used to winging it, We'll just wing it. You love us anyways, right?
Yeah. I mean, come on, what's not to love? It's you and I. and I'm only the newest addition to the arm of this great show. So, I thank you for even allowing me to be here with you. You've been you've been with all your listeners for a long, long time, and I appreciate you allowing me to be here with you. And in fact, I'm feeling better right now as we talk because it was a little rough when I called you.
I know you did something good when you first got on it. I said a little prayer for you. I said, Lord, he's got to get it together.
Yeah, exactly. I'm feeling better already. So it says,
and for everybody that's in the chat, Robert and I were live with Michael Vera a few nights ago. Was it a few nights ago?
Yeah, it was, what was it, Wednesday? Yeah, it was Wednesday.
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah, it was good.
I just happened to call in and rattle your chain. I wasn't invited as a guest. I just figured I'd jump in there and rattle your chain, and Michael's always so gracious to me,
Yeah.
Who are you? Badbaby. We should have told him what Michael Horn said about me. For those that were with us the other night when we had Michael Horn on.
Let me do this.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me do it. So
go ahead.
It was so good. He's such a gracious man, and Badbaby got in touch with him after the show. She sent him, the podcast, and he's like, "You are the baddest baby of them all," and you called me, and I was like, "Yeah, that's Michael. That's just such a humor." I thought that was terrific. By the way.
Between him and who did we just have on? Dr. Richard Miller. Dr. Richard Miller. Oh my God, he's
a character, isn't he?
So hard.
He's such a character.
That guy is such a card. I got on the phone with him. He put his girlfriend on the phone with me, and he goes, "I just love your handle, Badbaby. You are a bad girl."
Well, you know what?
A bad girl is you.
I know. I do. I call you my bad girl because you are. You don't take any guff from anyone. You call it as it is, and you got a heart of gold. And I know that because you and I have had many personal conversations, and I know what you've been going through and what you've gone through. And for anyone to deal with that and still have such a good, kind heart, well, in my book, you're the baddest of them all.
Well, thank you. I look at it this way. I don't try to be a crybaby about what I've gone through because I know many, many others out there have been targeted and go through a lot of crap like I do. And I look at it this way. They can steal my things. They can kill my animals. They can steal possessions, but I'll never let them steal my smile.
And that's your heart. That is your heart.
If you let them take your joy, everybody, if you let them take away your happiness, then you're letting them win. So don't let them win. Just pull them bootstraps up. I know it's hard. I've been there. I've gone through it and back. You just got to pull them bootstraps up and say, hey, I am me, and you aren't taking me away, This is the way it is, Because they want to be miserable. They want to push you over the edge. They want to make you unhappy, and when you do that, you let them win. So don't let them win, everybody. Just be yourself and carry on. keep that little bit of joy wherever it is in your heart. Pull it out and just and let it grow. That's what I do. And when I have a rough time with this targeting and that, I'll go into town and I'll put my essential oils on, and I love wearing my essential oils. And people just attract to me. I mean, and I'll like, well, hey, you perpetrators might be a bunch of idiots, but I'm going to go out there and find some good people and spread the joy, spread the love. That's what we got to do. I got a friend on Facebook right now that he's down there in Texas, and actually I would like to have him on. His name is Matthew Short, and he's down there, bless his heart, with his whole group, and they are gathering food and clothing for those that are out there that are homeless. And he just did a live stream out of the Kroger, the local Kroger, and they went in there and they said to the manager, can you help us out? We're going to feed a bunch of people tomorrow and blah, blah, blah. And long story short, thank God the deli is going to give them all the food that they would throw out regularly at the end of the night. They're going to give them all the food. And then people were asking them, I guess they have some kind of sign saying, please donate, we're going to feed the homeless tomorrow. And thank God, people were coming up to them and saying, what are you doing? Oh, I got a bunch of clothes, and they came back with clothes, and there were people going and filling shopping carts and coming up to him and saying, we bought all this with it. And so he's really doing great. I hope everything goes good for them tomorrow morning. God bless them. I'm
sending my love and prayers to him. I think that's absolutely extraordinary. I wish more human beings would realize, what we are. We're conscious beings, having a physical experience, and we are all of this universe. We're all the same, and there's people out there who understand that, and that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And now getting so close, to Christmas and the holidays for everyone. That's when I think it should be year around. But
yes.
I guess people only can do as much as they can. But that's a beautiful, wonderful gesture, and I hope that becomes more and more worldwide. By the way, not just here in this country, worldwide.
Absolutely. I don't know if you remember, there's a pastor over here in eastern Michigan, Dave Pratt, I think is his name. I apologize if I don't have it right. It's been a long time since I spoke with him. But he is a biker pastor. I love him to death. He is such a great guy. And I had him on, maybe a year and a half ago. We were talking about FEMA. Came through his trailer park and was doing a drill where they had Dobermans, and they were telling people stay in your trailers, and I thought his story was pretty interesting. So I got a hold of him and had him on as a guest one night, and his story is great because him and his wife and his family, they do the same thing, but they do this, like you said, year round. And they go down to Detroit, and they feed the homeless down there all the time. They load up their truck, and they go down there. And actually, he did a live stream on Facebook about a week ago. He's not feeling well. And even though he wasn't feeling well at Thanksgiving, he loaded up all these turkeys. Actually, he did a video. He showed it on YouTube or on Facebook, pardon me. Look at all this food we're taking down there tomorrow. And he had those, those portable tin containers just loaded with turkey and dressing. And, so God bless him because this man, he's not a rich person, but he goes down there and hands out blankets and, we need more. We need more.
You're right.
Like this.
You're right. With everything that people are facing worldwide, look just in our own country, look what's going on in California. It's insanity. How to describe all this? It's changed for sure. What to expect further on, who knows? But all I know is we're human beings having a human experience, and we are all, made and part of the same stuff, and we need to come together more and more as human beings. That's it. I mean, it's all about love. It really is. It's all about love and respect and kindness and morality towards one another. You know, not all the craziness that we've been going through for the last 30, 40 years, all the deception and lies and manipulation. I mean, that's all coming to an end. So we're seeing some grand and great changes, which I welcome. I welcome it all, because you can't move forward without change. Everything becomes stagnant if nothing ever changes.
Well, you know, and the thing is, we have, you know, there's so much hate out there, Robert. You know, that's what gets me ticked off. Like, for instance, there was a kid out there in Port Huron that I've seen him a couple times. I fed him a couple times. He's homeless, you know, and he was in the rain, cold one day, and holding a sign saying he was hungry. I only had a couple bucks in my pocket, but I went and bought him something to eat and came back and gave it to him. And this old man gave me the riot act over it. You're a sucker, blah. And I thought, buddy, don't worry about it. It's not your few dollars.
That's right. It's none of your damn business either.
Like just button their lip and head on down the road. Mind your own business. I wish I would have had Hank Williams to play for him. You don't mind your own business, you won't be minding mine.
Absolutely. Well, you know,
and that's why they call me Badbaby.
Batgirl, I did the same thing about 3 months ago. There was a family. They had spent all their money fixing their truck, and they were getting back home, and I think it was up north. And they were in the parking lot of a Trader Joe's, which, you know, I shop there. I love that store. Not only for the fact that all the stuff they sell, it's organic, it's very reasonable. I happened to be in the parking lot, and I was going shopping, and, you know, and it wasn't, believe me, it was no new truck. It was pretty old. And they pulled up next to me and says, "Sir," he says, "look, we have our grandfather." They weren't even talking about themselves. He says, "Sir, our grandfather's in the back of the truck. He hasn't eaten in a day and a half. We spent all our money fixing our truck just to get back home." I said, "Could you maybe buy us something to eat?" I said, "Hey, guys, just hold on a second. Let me go in the store. I got to do a little shopping. If you wait out here about 10 minutes, I'll come back out." And I didn't just buy it for them. I bought enough for everybody. And they were like, you know, "Thank you so much." I said, "You don't have to thank me." I said, I know when I see scammers, and I know when people are in need. He says, "My pleasure. Please take it." And that was one of the best feelings I could ever had, to do something like that. And I've done that, you know, on many occasions, as you have as well. You know, I just wish more people could open their hearts up a little bit more to people in need, because that's what it's all about, this human experience. It's about what you can do for others. It's not about what you do for yourself.
That's right. That's right. So for everybody that has just come into the chat, I apologize. I do not know where Robert Evans is tonight, and again, I'm going to let everyone know he is in California, and they are having those terrible fires. Also, we know that, you know, he was going to have open heart surgery, so, and he has not had it yet. So, God, you know, just the fact that he's not answering the phone, I'm very, very worried about him. So let's just keep him in our prayers. Hopefully he just fell asleep, or maybe he forgot. I don't know. I can't see him forgetting. I spoke with him yesterday. You know, so that's what worries me, you know, that he knew he had to go. I apologize. So basically we're winging it tonight, you guys. So just hang in there. We'll pull up some info and go over it. I'm going to let Robert take over for a minute, and I am going to try to jingle him one more time. And if he doesn't answer this time, we're just going to give up, and we'll cover our own material tonight.
Yeah,
so, Robert, you go ahead. I'm sure you got another news story you can cover, and I'm going to try to give him a quick jingle again.
Okay. Well, anyway, I wanted to get back to the record snow cover in Houston, Texas, because this is really important, gang. So just let me reiterate what they were saying. say it ain't snow, right? It's not a dream or nightmare, but reality. One of the biggest snowfalls in history just walloped the Texas Gulf Coast and has brought Houston to a crawl. Now, this is very important because this hasn't happened in a really, really long time, and I'll tell you how long it's been, and it's right here in the article. It says, Mother Nature brought blockbuster amounts of snow to areas that only see it a few times per century. Okay, get this, a few times per century. That's huge. Where even half-melted flurries are enough to drive kids out of their minds with excitement, which I guess, you know what, if I were a kid being in that, you know, in Texas, I would too. But it says, I'm not talking about Dallas or Amarillo, or Lubbock. As of this entry, it is snowing and snowing heavily in, of all places, Brownsville, marking only the third time since 1895 they have received accumulating snowfall. That's kind of freaky and scary, right? So it says, not to be outdone, Corpus Christi got their first snowfall in 13 years and recorded between 5 and 7 inches of snow. Wow. That's extraordinary. What's more absurd than that? They reported a thunderstorm with heavy snow in Corpus Christi, which is even more extreme. This is extremely rare. In Buffalo, to have it happen not once but twice would make even the Jim Cantor breathe into the bag. That's pretty wild. So it goes on to say, it says, it gets better. College Station, 90 miles northwest of Houston, recorded 5 inches of snow, marking an unusual milestone, having received more snow this winter so far than Minneapolis. That's extraordinary to me. Minneapolis, I mean, Twin Cities. You know, that's snow country. It's the Northwest. So it says Houston. Says Houston. What is soon to be the third largest city in the nation came to a slippery halt overnight. The city saw widespread snow amounts between 1 and 3 inches, recorded its first snowfall in 8 years, and received an accumulating snowfall before New York City and Boston. And that's just extraordinary, gang. Now, it goes on to say, not one, but 2 snow records were set in Houston before midnight. Officially, 0.1 of snow fell at 1 1 AH. I guess that's just a terminology used in science for snowfall, setting a record for December 7th. This says the snow that accumulated after midnight totaled 0.6 inches, so basically half an inch, setting a record for December 8th. In total, just shy of an inch fell officially in Houston. Area freeways, known for their high flyovers and numerous interchanges, became ice rinks, causing several freeways, including the always gridlocked West Loop, to be shut down completely due to an accident that may have been caused by ice. Well, that's probably really true, and if that's the reality, there may be more of those, because most people in Texas and in Arizona and New Mexico don't see this kind of weather. So Houston also had the 15th snowiest December day on record when the 0.7 inches fell at Bush International Airport. The official snowiest December day on record is 2.5 inches back in 1929. Imagine that. You think things are changing? You think there's something coming? I definitely believe so. It's important to remember that the IAH is just one spot in a large metro area and many areas saw a good bit more than that. Now it goes on to say that the snow fell in Houston Thursday, the snow that fell in Houston Thursday also marked the second earliest snowfall ever recorded for the city. Now, granted, these aren't New England-style records, so those who are reading this in Boston, Buffalo, or Denver, try to keep the fall down to a quiet giggle. Yeah, okay. This is Texas, after all, and while it isn't so unusual here, marquee amounts or so, especially along the Gulf Coast. There's an old adage around Houston that is well remembered by all locals that says, every time Houston gets hit by a hurricane, it usually snows the following winter. That's interesting. I never heard that before.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, so let me finish this up. While that is not accurate, there seems to be an undeniable correlation, even if not totally true. This is where it's probably going to get a little interesting in this article. It's also an interesting coincidence, and I don't believe in those folks, by the way. That's me saying this. I don't believe in coincidences. That when Houston last hosted the Super Bowl in 2004, the following winter, the city recorded its first white Christmas, and an incredible 13 inches fell in Brazoria County. Fast forward to 2017, Houston hosted Super Bowl 51 and has now been buried with several inches of snow. Perhaps that's the stronger correlation. I doubt it, but snow in Houston is not unheard of. In fact, as of today, Houston has just recorded its 36th snowfall since 1895, the year Houston had a blizzard that would make even those in Cleveland go, Upwards of 20 inches fell on Valentine's Day of that year. However, the snows are infrequent enough that it still rolls excitement to a frenzied pitch when the flakes begin flying in an area that is known for its air conditioners and stifling humidity. Absolutely. You know, it's interesting because it's not only that. It seems like there's that bigger correlation because, I mentioned and put in the chat the hums, the bizarre noises, the strange trumpet sounds. But on top of that, you've heard me talk about, and all the guests on this broadcast talk about the sinkholes, the bizarre, just extreme weather, extreme heat, extreme cold, when it shouldn't be happening, right? And lakes disappearing overnight, and tornadoes and hurricanes happening places, and water spouts taking place where they shouldn't be happening. So, I kind of think it's kind of succinct of what's all taking place worldwide, but I think there's an adaptation to what they were saying in this article because they're just, basically recording the fact of when things happened, how things happened. Now they're saying it's a recurrent event, synchronicity. I don't think so. Coincidence? Absolutely not.
Not to mention the volcanoes. Don't forget the volcanoes. Don't forget the animal kill-off list.
And I know, I didn't even want to get into that because it's been so massive. But just to finish this article up really quick, it says few people are complaining in the city that has been through so much, and they have. Many people here, including your author, find it magical in every way. Well, that's wonderful because you went through that miserable, disgusting hurricane and you just wiped out the city. But the ohs and ahs of kids and parents alike dancing in the streets well after midnight became commonplace in otherwise quiet neighborhoods on a school night, it is kind of magical in that sense. The snow has now ended for the upper Texas coast and will soon conclude in the valley as well. Regardless, the snowstorm of 2017 will long rage on the minds of those who were here to witness this great white rain on the coastal plain. How cute.
Wow.
That is the article, but I
tonight they're saying 2 to 3 inches, so this will be our first snowfall up here in Michigan. And you know, like I was saying before, we're unseasonably warm. Before that, we were in the 50s. So yeah, we're having some strange weather also. I just want to, again, there are a few new people in the chat room probably looking for Robert Evans. We have to apologize, folks. I do not know where Robert is. I've been trying to call him. Keep him in our prayers. You know, he has heart problems. And who knows, you know, maybe something happened. I just hope maybe possibly he fell asleep, and that has happened with Robert before.
I hope that's all it is. I truly do.
Yeah.
You know,
so
and to go on.
Do is, you know, we'll get a hold of him and we'll rebook him.
For
those that want information about Planet X, we are going to have Marshall on next week.
Yes, we are.
You know, tune in with us. We all love Marshall Masters. He's such a sweetheart. Another one of my people that has a crush on me. I know Marshall has a crush on me.
How is it that all these men have crushes on you? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. It just must be my sparkling personality.
I definitely either that or your fiery red persona.
You know, but it was funny because Michael Horn, he don't even know me, and he goes, "You're the baddest of all babies."
You're the baddest of them all. I thought that was so cute, and it's wonderful because you get to know people. You can really get to know people. You don't have to see a person physically, but you listen to them and their speech and their thought process, and you know what they're about. And sometimes that's probably better than having a one-on-one, face-to-face kind of thing, because you don't put any what's the word I'm looking for? You don't put any you don't put the face to a person kind of thing. Like when you hear somebody's voice and listen to somebody talk, at least I do, I try to put a face to the voice. You know, it's like, you know, and then you see that person or meet them for the first time. It's like, oh, you're not expecting what I thought you to be.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's even better because now you're going off the individual's thoughts and ideas and who they are and what they're about, what they're talking about, and you know what their aspirations for life and is. You know, so it's a wonderful thing.
Well, you know, I have to say that in the years that I've been out here, and I've been out here for about 14 years now.
Is that all?
I have been honored to meet so many wonderful people. I've had books sent to me by my guests. You know, the list of people never ends. You know, like Al Cuppett, the retired Joint Chief of Staff of the Pentagon. I just spoke to him this morning. I love Al. He is such a great guy, and he has such excellent information about what's going on in our country. And, you know, he has a lot of contacts still in the Pentagon. I've talked to him one-on-one about things that are going on in the war room, you know.
Sure.
Just to have that kind of a connection with somebody. And, you know, and he's always so gracious to me. When he talked to me this morning, he said, you know, I pray for you, Mary, you know, and bless you. And he actually, when we were supposed to do an interview with Steve. Al, me, and Steve were supposed to do an interview. And
right.
Steve, you know, just didn't show up, and I couldn't contact him. I didn't know what was going on. And Al called me again this morning, wanted to know, you know, first thing Al thinks is they got him, you know. He goes, you know, with what's going on, with the way people follow you guys around and harass you and blah, 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 he says, I hope to God they didn't get him, you know. So
right.
I had to call him. I said, Al, you know, he had a family tragedy. His son's in the hospital. So, you know, don't worry, they didn't get him.
Well, you know, Al has to have, you know, once you're in the government, it's not like you ever really get out. You always know people who are in the government. You always, you have an ear inside. He's got to have that inside information on what's really going on.
Oh yeah, he's got people that call him and tell him things. There's things that he can't reveal.
Absolutely.
And he's no dummy. 38 years in the military. He was Joint Chief of Staff of the Pentagon under George Bush. So when he starts talking about the New World Order and what's going on in our country, you can take that to the bank.
Yeah, and that just doesn't happen. This is something that you well, not to say he was a part of, but he unwillingly knew or didn't know that was all going on until he discovered it on his own.
Right.
So.
Well, he actually, I should book him here. I haven't booked him here in a long time.
I would love to talk to him.
Jim Rivas. I booked him with me and Steve. I'll have to give him a call and see if he'll come out here and re-enlighten us. But, when I interviewed him, years ago when I first met him, we were talking about the red, blue, green list, which a lot of people think that's a lie. There's no red, blue, green list. And let me tell you, Al has seen this list. Everybody in our country is on this list, for those that have followed me and know about freedom fighting. What kills me is when someone will say, oh, they're targeting you. Well, I don't care as long as it doesn't happen to me. Well, believe me, it's going to
That's the worst thing. By the way, that's the worst thing anybody could say to another human being. I don't give a damn. That's the absolute worst thing you can say to somebody. It's like, at least listen to that person and, have an emotion for that other human being. Say, wow, I didn't know that or whatever, but you say, I don't give a damn? That's like basically saying you don't give a damn about yourself. It's horrible.
Well, that's called every man for himself. But what they don't realize, and I had said to Al when I first interviewed him a long time ago, what can we do to stop this? What's going on? What can we do to stop this inner turmoil in our country? And, unfortunately, he told me, he said, honey, it's too late. He goes, our government is completely infiltrated, and, and I'm like, whoa. And I said, well, why isn't Congress doing something about it? And he goes, they're all in on it.
Right.
He goes, they've all been told your families will be fine when all hell breaks loose. So keep your mouth shut. So, again, a form of control. And I had asked him, I said, I know a lot of police officers are going to go along with it, but I know there's going to be ones, because I know some good ones, that aren't going to go along with it. And he said, do you know that they already have a plan? And this doesn't surprise me either. And this is the plan he told me about, that they are going to gather up these police officers that won't comply and take their families into the Air Force Base housing for the men or whatever, the housing.
Right.
And then they're going to approach these officers and say, listen, you will do what you're told because we got your family held over here. And if you want your family to be all right, then you go ahead and do what we tell you to do. So, they've already got the plan. And, here's another thing Al had told me, and this is one of the reasons why I won't go into churches. A lot of people with this red, blue, green list, they don't understand. They think that someone's going to pound on your door and say, all right, we're here to gather you up and blah, blah, blah. Al said,
it doesn't happen that way.
That's not the plan. That's not the plan. He goes, do you know how long it would take them to gather up everybody one by one? Not to mention that they're not going to knock on your door when they know Americans still have guns. And he said the only reason, this is what he said to me this morning, the only reason they haven't done it already is because they haven't been able to get our guns away.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, he said as soon as they start rounding up the guns, it's time for you to leave the country. That's what he said. And I'm like, where am I going to go, All right, Al, I'm building my boat right now. It's a raft, just like in the olden days when they went down the Mississippi River.
Well, and it's a great thing that we have Trump in office because now more Americans have guns than they've ever owned before. And
he don't want to take our guns. That's
exactly right.
Al said they threw a monkey wrench in when Trump said, I'm for the Rifle Association. You know.
That's right.
But
right.
This is what Al told me. Let me explain what he said. He said, where would you find the biggest group of people on one certain day? I said, in church. He said, you got it. He said, Homeland Security has already been to every single church in our country and marked every entrance and every exit. And he goes, now think about it. Back in World War II, when they rounded up the Jews, they got them when they were all, what do they call it, the Pentagon or whatever.
Yep.
And what did the people do? The people went right to the head of the church and said, what do we do? What do we do? And what did the head of the church say? Just do as they say. Don't want to get hurt. Get in the buses. Get on the trains. Comply. Well, this is what's going on. Every single one of the pastors, preachers, I don't care if it's Protestant, Lutheran, Catholic, any church, every single church, the church leaders have all gone to FEMA training camps.
That's
they
right.
They've all been trained that when all hell breaks loose, they're to tell their congregation not to disrupt anything, don't want to get hurt, don't want your children, just do what they say. They've already gone through training for this. Homeland Security has been in every church in our country and marked every entrance and every exit. He said when they go to that church, they're going to kick the door in. It's going to be foreign soldiers. They're going to have buses. They're going to have semis outside, or 6-bys outside, and they're going to say, get in the bus. And the pastors are going to go along with it. And you want to know why they're going along with it? Because they were told if they don't go along with this, they're going to lose their 501(c)(3). So they don't want to lose their tax exemption and their money and ruffle, unfortunately, the people that are that 300-400 people that are sitting in that church that day are going to be sitting ducks because there's going to be no door to run out. Every door is going to be covered. They're going to be rounded up, I had told a few people that, they can't do that. My pastor wouldn't go along with that. And this one guy down here in Algonac, he said, Badbaby, you got to tell my pastor. I said, well, I can talk to him, but I can guarantee he already knows. And he goes, well, I'm going to go talk to him. He's a personal friend of mine. So I run into this guy about a month later, right? And he says to me, Badbaby, I talked to my pastor about what you were telling me, and you're right. He already knows. And I said, well, I told you he already knows. And then he says, and he just got back from China for a training op. And you know what Al told me? It's going to be the Chinese and the Russian that do it. Now, what's he doing in China?
Right. Well, and then again, and that's in Michael Horn's work with the Second American Revolution, that basically it would be the Russians and part Chinese troops that would come in from the north, meaning, I believe, through Alaska and Canada, who would invade our country for this takeover. Unfortunately, what they don't realize is Americans have more guns than anybody else in the world. So it's going to be an all-out battle if, in Michael Horn's work, he said that, the Palladians say, yeah, it happens. So I'm prepared for it, Yeah,
and didn't Michael say that this was to come in 2018?
I don't know the date. I don't think there was a date given to that. There would just be a second American Revolution and then a third American Revolution on top of that.
Yeah.
So,
well, well, maybe it's Edgar Casey. I was listening to Edgar Casey's predictions, and
right.
I think it's one of Edgar Casey's predictions in late 2018 there was going to be a war on American soil.
Right.
When I spoke to Al this morning, he said, that's why he was so worried about Steve disappearing, because he said, well, they're already here. He said they're in the FEMA camp.
Yeah.
And,
I know that.
Oh, yeah.
They've been here for a long time.
Oh, yeah. And, here's another one. Here's another story you guys might not know about. I had someone contact me in the hills of Montana, and they were having wildfires there. And the people were like, how are all these fires starting? Well, her son was the head of one of the patrols that was fighting one of the fires up in the mountains. And they're up there fighting the fires, and all of a sudden, in drops about 4 or 5 helicopters with no writing on them, solid black helicopters. They're like, what the heck? Out jump a bunch of foreign soldiers. They're screaming all this foreign language at them. And the one head person said, you need to leave. This is what he said to him. You need to leave, and you need to leave now. And her son said, I'm not going anywhere. He said, I'm the head of this crew, and we're up here fighting this fire. And they pulled machine guns on him and told him,
right.
You leave or we'll shoot you down right now. So they had to leave. And then here's another one. This was another fire situation, and this is what makes me so suspicious about California, because I really think that all these fires are being set by these foreign soldiers. And the reason I think that is because there was somebody who had sent me an email. They were in the mountains, I want to say Montana area, and they had a deck off the top of their cabin. And they would sit out on their deck in the morning and drink coffee and take their field glasses and look, for animals in the mountains and blah, blah, blah. And they saw helicopters drop down on this one area. Out again, jumped the foreign soldiers, and they started flamethrowing.
Wow.
Fire.
Wow.
So, it's not a good situation for our country. My heart just breaks for the people that are suffering out there.
Yeah, me too.
They're losing their homes, and, it's not a good situation.
Well, like I said, the only thing that they're not anticipating is the pushback they're going to get from the American people, and it will be brutal. You got to figure there's 100 million Americans with probably 500 million guns, and I'm proud to say that I have at least 5. So everybody knows this.
Too. Since a lot of this attacks that are going on, like the attacks that happened in New York, where the guy drove over a bunch of people, they said that more women are taking, gun classes and learning and arming themselves, and I am so proud of them.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, and I encourage everybody listening. You know what? If you are not firearm savvy, you need to get you need to go for lessons. You need to get trained and prepare yourself. And I'm not talking about even the invasive stuff. I'm just talking about just protecting yourself on a daily basis. It's very important.
Here's one. There was a YouTube video that was put up on Facebook. And, a lot of people have those doorbells that have video cameras on them now.
Yes,
because they're having their packages stolen. I mean, crime is just so rampant. And this guy comes up to their door, rings the doorbell, he's standing sideways, and he's holding a Glock pistol in his hand. And he just got the pistol, hanging on. He's got his arms crossed. He's got the pistol, on his arm, and he's just sitting there waiting for someone to answer the door. And there was underneath it said, does anyone know who this person is? The owner did not answer the door. They called the police, and when he left, they're looking for him. He's a person of interest. Well, what do you think he's ringing the doorbell for, holding a Glock pistol?
Right. Right. Right.
Just came over to visit. I wanted to show you my bullets.
Right. It was a good thing it wasn't my house. He would have been met with some fierce firepower. That's all I can say.
You know, at that point, that's when you just open the door a crack and you stick a double-barrel shotgun out and go, can I help you?
Yeah. You really don't have to aim. You just point it out the door. Oh, yeah. No question about it.
Only in America, you know. Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm going door to door and I'm demonstrating Glocks for people.
Here, let me demonstrate how this firearm works. Could you please stand in front of me?
Oh, my God. Only
no
in
kidding.
America, like I said, only in America.
Yeah.
But
Frightening
anyway,
stuff. Frightening stuff.
let's talk a little bit. I did get an email a while back, and someone had asked if we could have Robert or Marshall on. And, again, we are going to have Marshall on next week. And they had asked if we could give some information about what would be good to put in your bug-out bags. So, why don't we go over that a little bit tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Marshall is writing a new book. Just so you know, we'll be covering that, I think, in the second hour of the show next week. And it's really about preparedness, radio communications, what you need to be ready for when this comes down. And, it looks like to me, my personal opinion, is coming down. It's coming down. Whether it's Civil War, whether it's Planet X, or all the above. Like John Moore says, you pick a date. What do you want? Civil War, economic collapse, Planet X, whatever. Pick a date, because you always have to be ready. And the bug-out bag is important. I do believe is important. It does make it difficult if you're a family, because now not only are you concerned with yourself, but the rest of your family and how to protect your family. But as an individual, I think the most important things you can have in there, first of all, you have to have food. You have to have plenty of food. But you have to have water more than food. You can literally survive without eating for probably 4 to 6 months. That's a fact. Even a normal individual who doesn't have a lot of body fat can survive 4 to 6 months. But if you go 3 to 7 days without water, you're gone. You're finished. It's over. So water is the number one thing. Food. You need something to protect yourself with. Okay.
Now, I got a comment on the water thing.
Yeah.
Because a person has to drink a lot of water, especially if they're walking and sweating. And
sure.
of course, you can get a canteen. You can take some bottled water, but then you're talking
Absolutely.
a lot of weight. So my recommendation would to be get a drink straw, it's called. They're about $21. And this drink straw will purify the water for you. You can put it in the ditch. You can put it in a puddle. I mean, anywhere there's water, and once you drink through it, it purifies it. And, this way you can purify your water with just a drink straw. And I would recommend have more than one.
I agree.
Get a couple of them.
I agree, but here's another thing. If you don't want to spend the money on the drink straw, you can have a very small bottle of bleach, and this is very important. Small bottle of bleach, and some sort of pot in your backpack that where you could even grab pond water. You know how pond water is, right? I mean, puddle water. You can take literally a pot, scoop up that puddle water, drop a couple drops of bleaches in there, recommended like 5 to 7, and then some. And you should have something to heat stuff with. Very important. Lighters are very important. Anything that can create a fire, very important to have, because then you're not having to carry that water on your back, and water is very heavy. So if you're going along the road, wherever you're going, to get out of harm's way, and there happens to be a water source along the way, fire, bleach, and something to boil that water in, well, then you're good to go. So, yeah, if you carry a little bit of water with you, that's great as well, because it's important. You've got to drink. But, having those other necessities are just as well, because you'll be able to purify the water as you go along and not get sick, which is very important.
Well, and the other thing is, if you do put matches in, make sure you put them in a Ziploc bag so that if you have to jump in a stream and cross, that they will not get wet. You want to make sure you keep your things dry. You're going to want to get an emergency blanket, which are those like Marlar blankets.
Yeah.
You can get them at Walmart or at any camping section of the store, or any camping outdoor store. They're very inexpensive. They're only like $3 for one. And another thing that I recommend is if you don't want to carry a small pop-up tent, you can just go buy a tarp. They're only like maybe $5-6, and you can rig your own tent by taking branches and setting up the tarp over a branch as like a lean-to, because you're going to want something if the weather changes, it starts raining or whatever, to get under and shelter yourself. So they're very inexpensive, but are very vital to have.
Absolutely. And speaking about the matches, you really don't need. It's okay. That'd be a good thing. Have matches, especially the big box kitchen matches. Those are really good. Lighters are good too. But I think even better than that are handheld spark igniters. They don't need batteries or anything. It's just a push button spark igniter. It creates a spark. If you can create a spark, and you have dry shrubs or whatever, reeds or sticks, or very small sticks, a dry spark igniter will light that right up as well. And they last a very, very, very long time. So you can use that as well.
Another thing that is even better than that, Robert, is called a flint strike.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what it's based off of, that spark igniter.
On Emergency Essentials, they're only like $6. And,
exactly.
This is this little square, maybe about 3 inches by 2 inches, and it has a little strike on it, and when you strike it, it will start a fire. It's called a flint strike.
Yep.
That's vital. I think they really need to have one of those.
Agreed.
A flashlight, a small flashlight would be good. You could
LED. That would be the one thing that I would want, an LED one. They're very bright. Some of them are extraordinarily bright. Those LED, they conserve a lot of energy. They don't eat up a lot of battery power like your, like your mag flashlights, where they take like 4 batteries of the Ds.
Dollar Tree sells an LED flashlight. It's only about 2.5 inches long. It takes, I think it's AA batteries. And it is a bright flashlight. It's small and be compact. Another thing you might want to take is a small first aid kit, and you can make that with just a Ziploc bag. Throw a few Band-Aids in there, some antiseptic cream, maybe some packets of aspirin, in case somebody gets hurt, or if someone gets sick, you might have someone that gets sick from being out in the weather. At least you'll have some aspirin on hand.
Absolutely. And if you don't have aspirin on hand, and you happen to be in an area where the willow trees are very prevalent, Willow trees work as the bark from a willow tree is an aspirin. That's where they make aspirin from. Now they just make it synthetically, but that's where it was created from. So keep that in mind as well. You can take the bark off a willow tree, crush it up, boil it, do whatever you need to do, and that works as an aspirin as well.
Okay, now let's say you run out of food. And
yep.
Let's say you're in a situation, you're in the forest, you're out of food, and, how do you sustain your body?
Okay.
You can take the pine needles off of a pine tree and
Absolutely.
boil them and drink that, and that is a high source of vitamin C.
Absolutely. By the way, where there's pine trees, there's pine cones. There's something called a pine nut within the pine cones. Each one of those individual, leaves, and they're actually leaves. They're bark leaves from the pine cone, but each one of those has a seed. You crack those leaves open, and there will be a pine nut in there, and you can eat all those as well. Not only can you do that, but one of the things that most people may not know about, I believe, is the dandelions. Dandelions grow wild worldwide, and they grow wildly and naturally all over the place. Dandelions are a great nutritional source of food, and you can find them just about anywhere. So that's something you can boil and eat, and it will also help you sustain yourself.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I learned a lot of survival tactics about was on the Weather Channel. They got a program called SOS, and how to survive all different situations. And I've learned so many things from that program. Well, here's a quick one. There was a couple that lost their bearings. They were driving through the mountains, and they went down a wrong road that was really a closed road. They ran out of gas. They had their children with them. They were in their car for like 5 days, and no one was finding them. They had no cell signal. It snowed where they just got buried in. And finally the husband said, well, I'm going to walk out of here and bring help back. Well, all he had on was tennis shoes. He got hypothermia. What happened is he got hypothermia after so long.
Right.
Fell down, and they found him dead. Thank God somebody flew over the car and in a helicopter, and they saw the car there, and the mother and the children were eventually rescued 2 days after he went for help. Now, SOS, the guy who does SOS, said he could have very easily protected his feet with a thing that you can make on your own called a mug-a-lug. And I'm like, what the heck is a mug-a-lug? And he demonstrated it. He took the floor mats from the front of the car, put his foot on it, he took his knife, he cut a hole, a slice on each side of his foot, on the edge of the foot mat, and on the tip of the above his foot, and on the back. Then he cut the seat belt off the car. He ran the seat belt through these slices and pulled it together on the side, ran it through the front and the back, wrapped it around and tied it, and that made a portable boot around his tennis shoe.
Very smart. Very smart. Yeah, it gives you protection against the elements, and then the hard, the rocky terrain that you have to walk on. So absolutely, that's a very smart thing. And also for anybody on coastlines, right? And whatever happens or comes down, you can take salt water and desalinate it very easily as well. You can take take the salt water, put it in basically in a pot, right? And you can simply take some sort of plastic wrapping and put it like a dome over the top of a pot, and have and put a tube that comes out from the top, and basically curve it over into another pot. And if you have the ability to create fire, you heat that pot up, what evaporates the water, and basically, separates the salt water from the salt. It takes the salt out of the water as it evaporates and drips into that cup as you're heating it up. It's basically a still is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And you can make a still just about anything, but there you go. You can desalinate water very easily by creating that evaporation and then letting the H2O just drip into a pot. And literally, in a half hour to an hour, you can have like a gallon of water sitting there ready for you to drink. So that's another thing you can do.
In view of the fact that they're talking about tsunamis hitting the coast, and people possibly, that was another thing that I watched, hurricanes where people, like Hurricane Sandy, where people decided to stay in their home and their home started breaking apart and they got washed away into the water. There was another one where people were trapped in their attic and they kicked out the vent, but they were elderly and they had to jump into the water and they were, it's still storming out, they're getting washed away. So he kind of went through some things that you can do if you do have to jump out into the water. And he said, if this elderly couple would have been thinking, there were things they could have did before they jumped down into the water that would have helped them sustain their life. They had coolers. They had 2 coolers up in the attic with them. He said, all you have to do is duct tape them coolers shut. Take a 2x4, duct tape each cooler to each end of the 2x4, throw it out into the water. It's a flotation device.
Absolutely, that makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. I mean, you could do that with basically any device, like plastic bottles, right? If you have those and can expel all the liquid that's in there, make them airtight. Those will become floating devices. They won't sink. If you have enough of them, you're definitely going to be able to float. There's no question about it.
Here's another one, too. If you get caught in a situation where you don't have coolers or duct tape, he jumped down in the water. He took his pants off. He tied knots in each one of the legs. Then he tied the legs together so they were like in a circular motion, put them over his head, around his neck like a life vest. Then he took the waist part of the pants and he took his hand and he cupped the water and he was like hitting the water like bubbles air was going up into the pants. They blew up like a vest. And then he tied it and it became a portable life vest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How many times have I jumped in the water with, my shorts on and they blew up like balloons? It's exactly right. Makes perfect sense. So
just cup your hands and just start beating the water towards in the pants, and you're blowing them up with air.
And here's another thing too, gang. I mean, this is probably the extreme part of that. But all of us are naturally buoyant, okay? If you try and stay in the water as horizontally, it becomes very difficult, especially in rough waters. But if you simply lie your body back, okay, spread your arms and legs out, and because I do it all the time, I've always done it. Our body is naturally buoyant, okay? You allow your lungs to fill up with air, okay, and you breathe at a normal pace, nice and slow. Spread your arms and legs out. You are a natural floating device, and you will float in the water, okay? You just go do it in the pool this coming summer, right? Just jump out of the pool, float on your back, spread your arms and legs out, breathe naturally, and you are a self-sustaining, floating human being. And that will save your life, especially if you're trapped out, not trapped, but stuck in the middle of the ocean for whatever reason, tsunami, tidal wave, hurricanes, who knows what. And you can survive that way.
You're going to be being washed away. There's going to be debris in the water. A lot of people.
And there's lots of debris to grab onto as well.
Right. And make sure you know what you're grabbing onto, because many, many power lines and telephone poles will be down. There was a woman in one of the segments he was showing, actually a guy saved her life because she was trying to reach for what she thought was a rope, and here it was a live power line that was hanging down. And this guy said, no, don't grab that, and he said, let go of the tree and float this way, and she got over to by him, and then he helped her get over to a house where they were pulled up on the porch. But again, because you're in a panic situation in the middle of this terrible storm,
you don't think.
Just be careful what you're trying to hold on to.
Yeah, absolutely, agreed. Yeah. You got to be aware of your surroundings. That's when all your instincts and instinctive training should kick in of everything that you've learned, all the information that you've taken in. That's when it becomes important. That's not when you do the fight or flight thing. You need to ground yourself immediately when all that happens and put your brain into a thinking mode, extreme thinking mode. How am I going to survive what has just happened? And again, most people unfortunately will panic, and that ends up, being the end of them, unfortunately.
Now let's get back to the bug out bag for a minute.
Yeah.
Food, I myself personally would, use MREs.
Yeah,
MREs
that's
aren't that heavy to carry. They sell crackers. If you buy MREs in cracker packs, they've got. If you just go in there, they've got fruit, they've got meals, they've got everything. But that's what I would carry, is a variety of things from MREs to get through for a while. But most importantly, you need a knife. You need a buck knife. Because if
Number one.
Yes. Because if
Number one, you got to have a knife.
You got to live off the land. You need that knife.
That's right, because your gun will eventually run out of bullets. Your knife won't. That's a fact.
Right.
And with a knife, you can, you can shear bark off of limbs to use as spears. You can even use your knife to cut down, excuse me. You can use your knife to cut down even small trees. You can actually do that,
right.
Or bend, because depending on your weight and strength, you can snap most of that stuff off. But you're going to need to debark them. Even if you want to create some sort of shelter, you're going to have to have a knife in order to do all this kind of stuff. Especially even if you're in a nearby lake, you can catch some fish, great, but you're going to need to gut them and you need to scale them.
Right.
Knives are important.
Right.
They're one of the most important tools you can have.
There are YouTube videos out there. I've actually watched it on SOS, how to make your own portable lean-to for shelter. And you can go, even if you don't have a way to cut trees down, you can go along and find branches that are pretty well straight and construct yourself. Go into YouTube, look at how to make a portable lean-to shelter out of tree branches, and you can, like if you're in Florida, you can use palm leaves, but if you're in Michigan, you can use leaves. Once you get the structure put up, you just do a square across the top and lay those on an angle like a lean-to. Then you take the leaves and the mud and the brush and you lay it over it all, and it makes it pretty darn a good structure for you to get under. Don't lay out in the elements is what I'm telling you. It will only take you a half an hour or so to construct yourself something out of branches and leaves that will hold your body heat in that area. That's the main thing, is hypothermia. You know, you want to be able to shield yourself from if it starts raining or snowing. So, you know, I would say right now, start educating yourself on survival out in the woods. Say you got trapped out there, you know. Like if that guy that ran off the road with his family would have known he could have used his floor mat to protect his feet, he probably would have survived.
Absolutely. And then if you're in an area where it's very deserty and there's lots of rocks, it's very easy for you to make a rock shelter to take you out of the element of the heat, especially in like Arizona. You know, there's plenty of, you know, rocks, and you can build a rock shelter. You could do that very easily. Just to keep yourself out of the elements. Even if it's a very small little huddle type thing, if you can keep yourself out of the sun, that keeps you from dehydrating. And without lots of movement, physical movement, you're going to last a hell of a lot longer if you're trying to walk through a desert, trying to, you know, get to somewhere where you can find help. So
one of the things you really want to be cautious about around the rocks is make sure, like if you are in Arizona, that's where the snakes live, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you surveil the area before you pick a spot. You don't want to be picking a spot where you're making a shelter in the edge of a den of a rattlesnake. And snakes are a good source of protein.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that.
Eat a snake, and I watched a video on that. They tell you to step on the snake's head and cut the head off right behind your foot. And then if it is a poisonous snake, a rattlesnake or whatever, keep in mind that snake can still bite you after it cut the head off.
Yeah, the head.
So
that's exactly right.
Take a long stick and dig a little hole and push the head of the snake into the hole and bury it before you go any farther. You know, you don't want to be thinking you can just pick that head up and throw it off or whatever, because it can still bite you.
That's true, and I was going to say, you can actually take the head of that snake, even though, you know, it's cut off. That venom is very, very potent for a good 2, 3, 4 days. So you could probably use that if you wanted to, you know, tip the head of a spear or something. You could probably put that venom on the head of a spear, and you know, clip a wild animal, you know, a wild hare, a boar, something. It'll put that boar down. You don't have to even kill it, but if you can clip it, it'll put it down. So that's usable as well. But I'd be very, very careful with doing something like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't recommend messing around with that really for someone. I mean, that it is just out there in a survival situation.
Right.
But you know, if you're more knowledgeable about that situation, sure, go ahead. But my first recommendation would be to bury the head of it, and that way you aren't going to accidentally touch it again, or anyone's going to walk along and accidentally get bit by this carcass that needs to be discarded. But that's one of the, you know, and then you know you can take and wrap that snake. You peel the skin back and you gut it, and then you wrap it around a stick, and you can roast it over the fire just like a rabbit.
That's right. And that's just about any wild animal out there. I mean, it's a source of protein. You'd be surprised how many wild animals are actually out there that most people are just not aware of until they make themselves aware of that environment. It's quite extraordinary, really. You know?
Well, another thing that I watched the survival guy do was they took and gathered some, you know, pine cones or food they call food for the wild, either pine cones or if there's some tree that has some type of nut or whatever, and they went up on a big rock, and they took a flat rock, and they put a stick under it, and then they put the pine cones under it. So if a small squirrel or a chipmunk or whatever goes up under there to get that, it knocks the stick out, it falls down on the animal, and then it's called a bait trap.
Right.
And that's a source of, catching something to eat. And actually they did. They caught a chipmunk, and they ended up eating it.
Wow. Wow, that's impressive.
So, these are things we can do now. I would recommend, if you want to learn survival techniques, go into YouTube and, just how would I put in survival lost in the woods, or how do I survive a flood, and you'll get a lot of good, information and tips on things to do that are life-saving, I would never think to tie my pants together to make a life vest. Never.
All right. Well, here's the thing. If you're a city dweller like myself, living in Phoenix, we're an urban sprawl. But still, when the situation comes down where now, you can't depend on a grocery store for food and, a service station for gasoline or anything else, what and who becomes your most deadly enemy? Becomes your neighbors. Because if you have and they have not, after a certain amount of time, they're going to come after your stuff. And this is one of the most important things, is to create a community around you that now you have, so many people within your area, your block area, where now you come together as a community to help each other and try and figure out, okay, how are we going to get through the situation instead of what can I take from my neighbor? And that becomes very, very important, because once you can have that community togetherness, you become strong in numbers. Because, if it happened to your area, that means it happened to probably a lot of areas in your city, or maybe the whole city. And that's when all the marauders come out after 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever, and trying to basically create that Mad Max kind of society, the strong survive. That's where you take them down and you build your community even stronger to, survive the situation. So neighbors they could be your best friends or your worst enemy.
Right. And if you get in a situation where you have to flee with your vehicle, let's create a scenario here. Say all hell's breaking loose and you're fleeing. Keep in mind, you're only going to go so far and you're going to run out of gas. You're not going to be able to pull into any gas station and say, fill it up. That's not going to be happening. There'll be checkpoints. You'll have to be on the QT. One of the most important things in that situation is to take a can of gas with you. If you don't have a can of gas, at least take a can, a hammer, and a screwdriver. And why do you need a hammer and a screwdriver? Because if you come across abandoned vehicles, you can put that can under that gas tank, punch a hole, and drain it into your can.
That's right. Absolutely. No question about it. Agreed. It's, however this thing all turns out, I hope it turns out for the best personally. I don't think it's going to be as bad as most people believe. My friend Bob Dean, which I love dearly, he says, NIBIRU's here. It's 2017. He called it, towards the end of 2017, which was scary, that because he got all this information from, extraterrestrial friends upstairs. And he said, but it's not going to be as bad as we all think it's going to be. Yeah, we're going to go through some rough times. What does rough times mean? I mean, we've seen some horrendous stuff up till now. Is it going to get worse? Who knows? But it's very important that we know all this stuff because, everybody's going to be in a different situation. I know that there's going to be a lot of power outages coming out from what Courtney Brown, through his remote viewing team, has seen for this coming month. Does it mean, your area, my area? Could it be sporadic? Could it be all the United States goes down in power? They don't know. But,
go over a couple things that Courtney saw in the remote viewing for this month.
Well, yeah, his remote viewers came up with a couple things. I think, to me, the most important was the outages because, it's winter now. And if this were to happen, where, there are very heavy snowfalls taking place, and now you're having power outages where the power doesn't come back 2, 3, 4 weeks, that becomes deadly. It's not just a power outage, it becomes deadly. Because 99% of the people out there have no idea what to do in that kind of situation. Now it's a life and death scenario.
That brings to mind something that you should have for your backpack is get yourself a good thick pair of hunting socks.
Absolutely.
And make sure you have a couple pair in case one get wet. You've got a dry pair to put on your feet.
Absolutely. The one good thing about that, I don't know if it's a good thing, but I'm just using that as a terminology, it's good, is that, you're not going to dehydrate because it's winter, and if there's snow everywhere, snow melts very quickly in someone's mouth. So you'll always have the water, but the food situation and the cold situation is completely different. So I still tend to believe it's just not going to be as bad as we all, think it's going to be. But there's been so much fear and scare and all this that you just kind of prepare for everything. At least I have, and I know you have. So for all of us who are prepared, we're going to be the ones in whoever's areas these things happen in. We're going to be the ones who are going to help lead a lot of people into reality, saying, hey, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been talking about this for a long time. This is what we need to do.
Right.
So let's get going, people, and we're not just going to lay down and die. That's not going to happen. Let's pull it, like you said. Let's pull our bootstraps up and do what we need to do. And as Americans,
a couple months ago, I had sold a box trailer to a friend of mine's friend that works for the county, and I started telling him some things that are foreseen to happen, and I started telling him some survival techniques and that, and I said, I'm a vast wealth of information for surviving, and he said, what he said to me? He said, and you're going to have a line at your gate. He said, because everybody will come to you, because he said, people right now might scoff and say, well, that ain't never going to happen. He goes, but when they remember you talking about it, they're all going to come to you and say, what do we do? How do we survive?
That's exactly right. I mean, I just mentioned earlier in the show when I said 88,000 people were already without power in Texas. I think it was in Houston. And they have snow. It's cold. It's cold. Now, it's not freezing. I mean, they're not buried in snow. But still, that could become a dangerous situation if that lasts 2, 3, 4 weeks. You don't know. I mean, look at those poor people in Puerto Rico, what they went through with that hurricane. They still don't have power.
Yeah.
They still don't have power. So what do you think they've been doing and how they've been surviving? They had to put their survival skills to work, and if they didn't have any, I'll guarantee you they learned them real quick to survive.
Here's another thing that can buy that you can carry. It'll slide on the side of your backpack, and it's a portable shovel. I think they're only like $20. They fold up. That is something that you really need to take with you, especially if you're trying to build a fire or dig a hole or clear an area to build your lean-to. And most importantly, everybody's got to go. That needs to be buried, because if you don't bury your waste, you're going to get sick. People are going to start getting sick.
Well, and also that waste you can turn into compost eventually. It doesn't take too long, but that compost is going to feed actually, depending on where you're at, will end up feeding and growing crops that you're trying to grow. I mean, that's what compost is. That's basically all it is.
Go into the dollar store and get yourself the travel sizes of hand soap and some, toilet paper. You can get the portable Kleenexes in the little square, because you're going to want when you're out there, you're like, okay, now I got to go to the bathroom and I have no toilet paper. Well, at least I have the small packets of tissue to blow your nose with. You know that they sell the little square ones?
Yep.
Throw a few of them in your travel pack.
Absolutely.
Make sure you have a couple small bars of soap, because you're going to want to go over to the stream and wash your hands. You don't do this stuff, you're going to get sick.
It's true. Absolutely true. Because if you don't have, a nearby water source, it's going to be a little difficult, guys. So you're going to have to really think about just basic stuff, right? When you use the facilities, when you go to the bathroom, how are you going to clean? Well, here's one thing. I know it's kind of gross, but I'm going to say it anyway. Urine will become very handy to wash and it's true, though. It's a fact. I know you guys can look this up, but it's true. Urine, your own, you can wash your hands, and by the way, it cleans them pretty well, disinfects them. And also, you can use it as drinking water. I know it's gross, but it's an extreme situation. You can use urine. Absolutely, I would boil it and disinfect it with a little, chlorine, but that's really urine. All it is just water and some of your bodily functions washing stuff out. So you can use that.
Here's another thing. I saw people that were broke down in the desert. They had a broken radiator hose. All their water leaked out of their radiator. They cut the hose off, hooked it back up, and got it going, but they had no water.
Right.
You know what they did? They peed in it.
Yep.
Peed in the radiator for water to get the car going.
And it works. And it does. And it does work. So these are just, little things that you may not be aware of, and don't be afraid of them, because when extreme situations arise, extreme measures are called for, guys. It may sound disgusting, but guess what? If it's going to save your life, what's more important? Just a little disgusting thing, or to save your life? I would choose the latter.
Yeah.
You got to tough it through. That's how things are, Hell, in the desert out here, you can catch a lot of scorpions and eat them. They're protein, right? People go, eat a scorpion. Well, they sell scorpions. They sell scorpions on sticks.
In the mountains that died of hypothermia, he made a vital mistake by not using the parts off of his car. One of the things he should have done was break the mirror off and took it with him so that he could reflect it in the sun, and if someone was flying over, he could try to signal them.
Yep, create a signal, exactly. So, there are so many things of value in our world, not in the modern world, but in our essential world, that are usable. You just have to use your mind, your thought, and, your capacity to expand a little bit, and you'll be surprised what you can come up with to survive. There's no question about it. You just got to put your mind to work. You can't lay down and die. We have a modern, fragile society. Electric goes out, people die, right? There's no water, you're going to die. There's no this, you're going to die. You got to be ingenious in your thinking. You can't let modern life dictate your way of life. We live in it, but don't let it dictate it. Be outside it, so you know that if a situation arises, you'll be able to get through it no matter what. And that's for you and your family. Yeah. It's part of the human condition that we have that need to survive, that fight to survive. And this is part of it. You just got to use your mind. Don't close down in a negative situation. That's when the human ingenuity steps up and says, you know what, we can do this or we can do that. But don't lay down and die. That's not us. And
you're saying their remote viewers are predicting power outages. Power outages bring with no way to pump the water.
That's right.
You're not going to have any way. You're not going to turn the faucet on and have water, folks. So here's a key tip. Make sure you got some 5-gallon buckets at your house. Make sure you got some nylons. You want to tie some nylons over the end of your gutter spouts and let the water drain into your 5-gallon buckets, and there you go, boom.
Perfectly put. Like for instance, I said 88,000 people are out of power. I think it is in Texas. I'm pretty sure of it. Okay, well, if they have no power, how's the water getting into their house? They're not. But if, a few smart people are out there and they have those 5-gallon or, the big barrels to collect rainwater, if snow fell on that, guess what? You can pull that snow right out of there and bring it in your house and melt it, and you got drinking water. You got no worries. You got water to flush your toilets. You got everything at your disposal. So, just like I said, be innovative.
If you go yard sailing, and I see these in yard sales all the time, those little Coleman stoves that just have the little tank of propane on it. Because if you have no way to melt that water down, if you've got a couple of them cylinders of propane and that stove, that's going to be a lifesaver for you if you're stuck in your house. It's going to be a heat source, for one. I mean, if you have no heat, the first thing I recommend is that you find one room in your house where everybody's going to stay. You take blankets and you nail them over the windows and you nail them over the doors, and you can even put a pop-up tent in that room, because you're going to want to get in that tent and everybody live off of that one area of body heat.
That's right.
So, you need a pop-up tent. Whether you're going to take it with you or you're going to hunker down in your home, if you have no heat, you want to seal that room off and get in a tent in that room, just like you're outside, because your body heat, if you got 2-3 people in a pop-up, 4-man pop-up tent, say, the body heat's going to heat that tent up alone. But then if you got that little Coleman stove in there, then you can turn that on to melt your water, cook on, or whatever, and that also is going to heat that little tent up.
That's exactly right. No question about it. I mean, if you've got the best thing would be if you had a cellar, because cellars, doesn't matter what's above ground. Cellars are pretty much 68 degrees year-round, summer or winter. Doesn't matter. So if it does get a little colder than usual, you can, if you have some sort of heating unit in there that can heat the cellar, that's if you have power, you can make it a little warmer. But being underground, it's pretty much a steady temperature. So that would be a good thing as well. But if you don't, then what Badbaby said works perfectly, because body heat does create, that the temperature that's needed for human beings to at least be comfortable in a survivable situation. No question about it.
Well, do you believe it? We winged it through 2 hours here, Robert.
What time is it? I don't even know. Are you kidding me? Look at that. Holy cow.
You're kidding me.
I was ready to keep. I was like, no, really? Well, I guess you're right. Well, it'll be fun. I hope Robert calls you tomorrow. Everything's okay. A little worried. Again, lots of fires going on everywhere.
Well, you know what, everybody? If you want to check back, if I do get a hold of Robert, I will book another show with him, and I'll post it down in my window. And if you see that I post another show with him, you'll know he's fine, and we'll explain what happened when we get him on the air. But, like I said, next week we are going to have Marshall Masters come out here, so we'll be talking about Planet X and.
Well, we'll be talking about his new book about the survival of all this.
Right.
So it should be pretty interesting, you know.
Right. So, join us next week. We'll have Marshall out here and take a look at my window to see if I do post with Robert Evans coming back out. And, just be strong, everyone. Don't live in fear. And if we do create a situation where we have to go into survival mode, thank God that you're out here and you're educating yourself. And I hope that, we can help you get through it, that the information we give out has helped you in some way. And who knows, maybe in some small way we might save someone's life.
Absolutely. I'm just saying.
On that note, and by the way, Christmas is coming.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, so, we're going to have to think of something special for our Christmas show.
Absolutely. I agree with it. Maybe we should do a Christmas thing. I think it would be nice.
Oh, I've done that before. I've come out here and just played silly Christmas music, but,
I love that. I have to say it. I'm 51 years old, and I still love all the Christmas stuff.
I know.
It's so heartwarming, and it's about joy and love and family and friendship and kindness to one another and joy for one another. I wish people would do that more often year round, not just once a year. But I think more than ever now, we need to all be together as human beings, find more forgiveness and kindness and give more love to each other because, we are faced with hard times. I mean, who knows what's going to happen from day to next? And I just want everybody to feel joy and love and happiness and be content in their lives, whatever situation.
And if something should happen where we do have these power outages and we're not back out here or you can't get on the internet, just know that my thoughts and prayers are going to be with you all. I'll be praying for you all to whatever struggles you're going through.
Absolutely.
And, just be strong and feel my strength.
Yeah. Do me a favor when you talk to Steve, give him my heart-warm, sincerest felt love and tell him I sympathize because I went through what he's going through now.
I will. And like I said, everybody keep Steve in your prayers. I hope to God that his son pulls through this, but, if they have to pull the plug, I hope he has a safe journey to the other side.
Absolutely.
And, sending them all our love and our prayers.